Welcome to this week's virtual Drasha. This week we have the incredible privilege to begin a new Chumash Bamidbar, to begin reading Parshas Bamidbar, and the Torah opens with the following pasuk: Vaydaber Hashem al Moshe. Hashem spoke to Moshe Rabbeinu Bamidbar Sinai ba'Ohel Moed. Pasuk goes on to tell us Hashem spoke to Moshe Rabbeinu in the Sinai desert, in the Ohel Moed, in the Mishkan, be'echad lachodesh hasheni, on the first day of the second month, b'shana hashenis, in the second year since we left Egypt. And then HaKadosh Baruch Hu then goes on to give Moshe Rabbeinu the command to conduct a census, to go ahead and count the number of people, ultimately to establish the size of the standing army. And the Mefarshim are all intrigued by one simple question. The Torah goes out of its way to tell us that this communication between God and Moshe is happening Bamidbar Sinai, in the Sinai desert. Isn't that obvious? We know Klal Yisrael is in the Sinai desert, although we did not yet get to the unfortunate episode with the Meraglim, the spies, where we were condemned to wander the desert for 40 years. But we know already that Klal Yisrael is Bamidbar Sinai. We're going to be in Midbar Sinai, we're going to be in the Sinai desert until we reach the land of Israel. So why is there a need for the Torah Kedosha? Why is there a need for the Torah to articulate this specific point, Bamidbar Sinai, that we were in the Sinai desert? And the Balaturim says something truly beautiful. The Balaturim says that there is a connection between the end of Chumash Vayikra and the beginning of Chumash Bamidbar. The Balaturim says the last pasuk in Chumash Vayikra, the last pasuk in Parshas Bechukos, I read, Eila ha-mitzvos asher tziva Hashem es Moshe al b'nei Yisrael b'Har Sinai. These are the mitzvos that Hashem gave to Moshe to command to the Jewish people on Mount Sinai, B'Har Sinai. And listen to the words of the Balaturim. The Balaturim writes, Lomar, and then again, this week's parsha begins Bamidbar. So last week's parsha, the last pasuk in Chumash Vayikra, these are the mitzvos that Hashem commanded Moshe. And in this week's parsha, we begin, Vaydaber Hashem al Moshe Bamidbar Sinai. There's a juxtaposition of the phrase Eila HaMitzvos, these are the commandments, to the phrase Bamidbar Sinai, the Sinai desert. And what does the juxtaposition teach us? Writes the Balaturim, Lomar, Im ein adam mesim atzmo kemidbar, that unless a person makes himself like a desert, eino yochol leida Torah u'mitzvos. It is only if a person makes himself like a desert, only if a person becomes Midbar Sinai, that he has the ability to ultimately acquire Eila HaMitzvos. These are the mitzvos. And the question is obvious. What does that mean? I have to make myself into a desert, ultimately in order to acquire Torah and spirituality. So on a basic level, the Balaturim is teaching us the desert is really bereft of most things. Interesting thing in life is that very often we're all looking for the same thing. We're all looking for happiness. We're all looking for a sense of contentment, a sense of completion, a sense of meaning. But all too often, we try to find that meaning in material goods, in material wealth, in material acquisitions or pursuits. Now, to be clear, there's nothing wrong with enjoying the material world. There's nothing wrong with accumulating wealth. There's nothing wrong with living a nice and comfortable physical life, as long as I know that's not going to bring me ultimate life joy. It'll bring me comfort. It'll bring me some level of happiness, but it's not going to bring me a true and profound sense of simcha. Simchas hachayim, joy in life, only comes from a sense of meaning. And a sense of meaning only comes if one is steeped in Torah, if one is steeped in a relationship with Hashem. Then and only then does a person feel truly happy. Then and only then does a person feel a true sense of contentment and completion. So on a basic level, the Balaturim explains so beautifully that the juxtaposition, Eila HaMitzvos asher tziva Hashem es Moshe, if you really want Torah, meaning if you really want meaning in life, if you really want true meaning, true depth, then I have to live Bamidbar Sinai. It doesn't mean to be bereft, to be void of all materialism, but it means just know that that's not the ikr. That's not the primary pursuit of life. It's all wonderful, it's all great. It all provides a sense of comfort and physical security and even a level of physical joy. That's absolutely true. But if you want real ruchnius, if you want real spirituality, if you want real holiness in life, you have to make yourself like a desert, recognizing that the things you could hold on to and the things you could count, and the things you could measure, and the things you could acquire, they're nice, but they're not going to give you a true sense of meaning in this world. If you truly want ruchnius, if you truly want Ila HaMitzvos, then ultimately you have to make yourself like Midbar Sinai. You have to make yourself like a desert. Clear everything off your plate. Enjoy it when you want to enjoy it, but recognize that it's not going to bring you contentment. It's not going to bring you fulfillment. It's not going to bring you true simcha. But perhaps the Baal Turim is also teaching us something else, which is, the interesting part in a desert. You look at it, you think about a desert landscape. And a desert landscape is barren. There's nothing there. But here's the amazing part about a desert. Any little thing that happens is noticeable. And any little thing that happens is observable. Imagine the following thing. When you walk down the street or you walk into your house, you walk into your front lawn and you see that there's a little flower growing. You'll say to yourself, great, very nice, beautiful, very nice. And if you're very frum, you'll say, Ma Rabu Ma'asecha Hashem, wow, Hashem created a beautiful world. But imagine for a moment you're walking in the desert and you see a flower. That flower stands out in such stark contrast to the barren landscape. You can't help but notice it. You can't help but appreciate it. And I guarantee you, when you see that flower in the desert, you're going to notice every color, every shade, the contours of the petals. You're going to touch it and you're going to appreciate the texture of the particular plant or flower. When you see it in your front yard, it's very nice. Oh, that's pretty. But it doesn't stand out, so you're not going to appreciate it. Or imagine, you come home and there's a puddle right in front of your doorway. Say, okay, if anything, a puddle in front of my doorway, it's a nuisance. I'm going to drag dirt into the house. Who knows what's going to happen? Or there's going to be mud, or there's going to be this. Or the puddle not in front of my house, but the puddle's on a field, the puddle's on my front lawn. Does anybody pay attention to a puddle on the front lawn? But imagine you're walking in the desert. You're walking in the blazing sun of the desert, and you see a puddle. Wow. A puddle in the desert. Water in the desert. A little collection of rain or from a natural spring. Absolutely incredible. Because in the desert, you appreciate everything more. Because in the desert, there's less of everything, so you appreciate everything. There's less of the things that are so commonly found all around us, so everything stands out. Everything is appreciated. And perhaps that's what the Baal Turim is teaching us. If you want Eila HaMitzvos, if you want a true spiritual existence, if you want a relationship with Hashem, if you want a relationship with yourself, because Eila HaMitzvos Torah is not just about my relationship with God or even my relationship with the Jewish people. It's about my relationship with myself. If you want that, I have to make myself like a desert. Meaning what? Learn to appreciate everything in life. We walk through life and we take so many things for granted. I wake up in the morning, and I know it sounds trite, but I wake up in the morning, that's number one. My eyes are working, my fingers are working, my body is working. I'm in a general state of health. I go ahead, and even when we see what's going on in our world, we look at Eretz Yisrael. We look at what's happening now in our brothers and sisters. Over 1,000 rockets, 5 dead. We look at what's happening and we daven and we ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu to help us. But dear friends, do you understand the times that we live in? That Baruch Hashem, for the last 2,000 years, when Jews were persecuted, we were never able to stand up. When Jews were persecuted, we were never able to fight back. Well, we don't have to take things sitting down. Baruch Hashem, we once again hold the keys to our homeland, and we have an army, and we have Iron Dome. Of course, the most important thing we have is the Ribono Shel Olam. But we have to appreciate these things in everyday life. A person goes home, and there's a mishpacha in Eretz Hashem, and there's food in the refrigerator, and there's some money in my pocket. Of course, we all like more money in our pocket. But sometimes, because we see so many brachas around us, we pay attention to none of them. We take them for granted. Kadosh Baruch Hu tells us, if you want to really be a holy person, you have to pretend like you're living in the desert. So, they say you should take time to smell the roses. It's really true that when you walk through the world and you see something beautiful, it is so important to stop and to pause and to say, Ma Rabu Ma'asecha Hashem. Ribono Shel Olam, how great is the world that you made? How beautiful it is. How much it is filled with so many beautiful brachos. And we have to condition ourselves to see the little miracles each and every day. Imagine you're living in a desert. I mean, I don't know that any of us are on this level. But, I was thinking about this. Like you open the tap, you open the faucet, and there's water. I don't drink tap water. I only drink filtered water, or Fiji water, or this water, or Evian. Okay, whatever kind of water. The point is, you can open a tap and there's water. The brachas we have, the simple brachas each and every day that we possess, you have to imagine like you're living in the desert and take the time, number one, to notice, and number two, to appreciate all of the brachos that are all around us in this world. Kadosh Baruch Hu teaches us, if you want mitzvahs, you have to make yourself like Midbar Sinai. If you want a relationship with Hashem, you want a relationship with Torah, you have to make yourself like a Midbar. Number one, recognize that your happiness and your fulfillment will not come from the things you can acquire or buy. They may give you joy, they may give you comfort, but they will not give you simchas hachayim. And lesson number two, be as appreciative of the brachos in life as if you were living in the landscape of the desert. Allow every beautiful blessing to knock you over. Allow every beautiful blessing to overwhelm you. And if we live a life like that, a life in the desert, we begin to see how truly surrounded by bracha we are. We begin to see how much the Ribono Shel Olam truly loves us. And when we feel overwhelmed by His love, in Yirtzeh Hashem, we will be zocha to reciprocate as well. Wishing everyone a wonderful day and a good Erev Shabbos.